folks, welcome back. I want to talk about energy vampires for a little bit today. You may ask, first of all, what exactly is an energy vampire? And it's going to be different for everybody depending on how they encounter an energy vampire, them specifically. But often, this is someone who is a black hole. They take and take and take and take from people and never give back. They are kind, can be kind when it gets them something, but it's not a real kindness. It doesn't feel like they do much from the heart. It feels like they just do. Not based on anything in particular, but just because society expects them to behave this way. You could say that they often have personality disorders, but I don't want to get too much into like mental health, mental illness, that kind of thing in this particular video, because that should not be the purview of something psychic, okay? I do want to get into the more spiritual stuff with a couple of questions that I've got up on my screen here in just a second. So yeah, these people are black hole, energy black holes. They take bad energy and good energy, and they don't give anything back. Okay, so yeah, let's get into these questions real quick. And by the way, if you have questions that you would like to discuss, I'm happy to do a part 2 on energy vampires if you like, okay? But here's my first question. What does Spirit, the universe, consider to be an energy vampire? So I am using, let me get the box. I am using the Wildwood Tarot to answer most of these questions, and then I'm going to end with the Sufi Wisdom Oracle by the time it's all done, okay? So I chose the Wildwood deck because it deals very well with old world knowledge, and energy vampires have been with us since human beings have been with us, okay? Some people may call an energy vampire a kind of NPC, but these are just people who are operating on autopilot. Bots, NPCs, you can call them whatever you like, but they're operating by the stereotypes that society has for them. They don't have real personalities. They often don't have real personalities for themselves, okay? So first question, what does Spirit, the universe, consider to be an energy vampire? So there are no, sorry if I keep tapping the table. There are no reversals with the Wildwood when I'm dealing with it most of the time. Other people may have reversals with the Wildwood Tarot, and that is fantastic, okay? So I shuffle until Spirit asks me to stop, and at that point we will take a look at the cards. Take from the bottom, the Stag is about old world justice. This would normally be the Justice card in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. This would also be the Strength card in the Tarot de Marseille, if you were to go even further back than the Rider-Waite-Smith. But this is about literally karma, that these are karmic people. Energy vampires are karmic people that suck away energy, but they are living in a state of emptiness because it is possible, there's the risk of the possibility that in a past lifetime they've done something that they need to pay back in some way, that these are, I'm getting from Spirit, that these are their just rewards, that to be an energy vampire is accumulated karmic debt from a past lifetime that they have to pay off consciously. These are people who would need to consciously wake up to the damage that they're doing to themselves and to others in order to start relieving that karmic debt. Now, when I read for Ronald Reagan and asked about his karmic debts, specifically Spirit indicated that he would need to relieve his karmic debts over 3 to 7 lifetimes, literal centuries. And it would be up to him to decide whether he was going to become spiritually conscious or not, and relieve that karmic debt at a faster pace. When you encounter an energy vampire in this particular lifetime, they may or may not be on a spiritual path towards relieving those karmic debts. But often, no, they are here to serve themselves exclusively, okay? And there are, I'm getting some specific, if you get into the lol cow culture, there are specific lol cows, such as Darkside Phil, who will take and take and take and take. and never give anything back, that they feel like they deserve everything that everybody has to give, and they deserve the absolute best. That's one way to characterize an energy vampire, okay? Spirit says to take from the top, 8 of Arrows. It is their karmic retribution to struggle through life. With the 8 of Arrows, this particular figure is already struggling through a really difficult winter landscape, but is also being shot at by a number of arrows. Even if these people appear to be relaxed and maybe not content with what they've got, they may not feel that relaxed. There's definitely an energy under the surface of people who are in a state of distress, at the very least spiritually speaking, if not mentally and emotionally speaking. They have no other way of operating as long as they are relieving this karmic debt. If they are trying to reach towards their best and their highest selves, it might be a little bit different, but the struggle will be the same. These people have done something to, I hate to use this word, but to deserve what it is that they're going through. And Spirit is also saying not to interfere with the karmic retribution that these people are getting, because if you interfere or try to save them from it, then their retribution also falls on you. Do your best, if you can, to not get too close to people. Now, I do have a question that I'm going to ask here in just a second that asks what you should do if it is impossible to get away from an energy vampire, such as they're the parents of your kids, for instance, or you're co-parenting with them, or they're in your family and you cannot get away from them. We'll talk about that in just a second, but they're struggling. No matter how relaxed and happy they claim to be, you know what I'm getting is that, I don't remember who said this, but it was someone describing VIPs, that they're ducks on water, in the sense that these ducks look serene and calm and beautiful, but underneath they are frantically kicking their little feet. Their little webbed feet, for instance. It's all about what's going on underneath the surface. These people may be partly energy vampires in the sense that they struggle and they depend on others to take care of them when they just are maybe too lazy to take care of themselves, okay? We've got the Seer. The High Priestess has seen what they did in the past, and she is also, the Divine Feminine is also giving out her own karmic retribution. The Divine Feminine is not all soft angles and kindness and love and all that kind of stuff, okay? There's more to it. She sees what an individual did in the past and carries that karmic debt over to other lifetimes so that they don't get away from what it is that they need to pay off. So on either end of this struggle card, we've got the Stag, Justice, and the High Priestess. The Seer, I should say. The Seer also guards, the High Priestess guards knowledge that we need to earn in order to have access to. You may find energy vampires who consider themselves, who may claim to be quite spiritual, but make no mistake, they do not have access to the spiritual knowledge that the High Priestess, the Seer, holds. Everybody needs to earn access, and some people just do not get to access it, and they may sap away the spiritual energy from, let's say, for instance, an empath, for instance, because, again, they need to feed off of something, and they don't want to do the work themselves. As long as they've got people around them helping them out, they don't have to do the work themselves. So I'm laying my cards out 3 by 3 to get a different kind of picture. Continuing to work on the top, we've got the not the 5 of Vessels, the 4 of Vessels, 4 of Cups, landing on top of the Stag, Justice, Karma, boredom. These people don't get to live a full life. They may be sapping away all kinds of energy, but I'm getting a sense of laziness, and I said that earlier, a sense of laziness, and by extension, boredom. These are not people who they can take risks, But they're not risks that they don't want to take. These are not people who challenge themselves. They don't get to live life to the fullest. They want to stay close to their supplies. Their energy supplies is what I should say. And as long as their energy supplies are stable, they're going to be bored. They do take a certain kind of risk, but only a calculated risk to bring them more money, for instance, bring them more energy supplies. We've got the Death card landing on top of the 8 of Arrows. They can choose to transform themselves if they choose to do so. But these are people who avoid it actively and so stay stagnant. This gives a lot of energy stagnancy with this particular card. These people refuse to see themselves for who they truly are. They refuse to see their inner light, if there is any in them, and for some of them there isn't. Now, it's interesting that I say inner light. This particular individual, I'm sorry for my shitty camera, is carrying a lantern. So if they have an inner light, it is greatly stifled if it's not been snuffed out in this particular lifetime, depending on what it is that they've done. Ultimately, these are people who refuse to transform, even when their scenarios, whatever they may be, encourage them to transform. Aren't you struggling enough? Isn't it time to stop what it is you're doing and make a change? I'll be the first to tell you that spiritual transformation is not easy, that it can be very rough, even traumatizing, depending on who you are and what your personal circumstances are. But these are people who enjoy the stagnancy, enjoy the boredom, enjoy the laziness, and so they don't make a change. And karma kind of creates those scenarios for them. Now, they can choose to do the uphill battle and choose to relieve those karmic debts, but a lot of them don't choose to do so unless their circumstances are such struggle circumstances that they have no choice but to transform. Again, with that 8 of Arrows landing on top of the Death card. And this is called the Journey in the Wildwood Tarot, okay? We've got the Moon on Water, or the Moon card in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. Makes perfect sense to me when you've got the Seer going on. That watery feminine energy makes sense with this particular Moon card. What I'm getting with this particular combination is that just because they are lazy, stagnant, and bored with their situations and refuse to make changes, that doesn't mean that they aren't going to be forced to make changes at some point in the future. Both the Stag and the Seer kind of hint at this, but this gives us confirmation that they are not going to be able to avoid this forever, and along with it landing right next to the Journey card, after the Boredom card. Well, they don't have any choice but to transform at some point in the future, even if they really, really resist and adjust their circumstances so that they don't have to. It's unavoidable. Energy supplies get dried up in the sense that they get tired and say enough is enough. I want better for my life. And those people move on, albeit with scars and trauma. But eventually, a lot of these energy vampires end up being, when they're older, they end up being 100% alone, and they tend to drive away even people that they pass on the street and pass by on the grocery store. Nobody wants to be around them. And God help the poor retail workers who are forced to deal with them, for instance, okay? The change is unavoidable. There's something hatching. You see that egg underneath the surface? There's something that's going to hatch at some point in the future. This particular, you know what's interesting? An egg coming after the crow or the raven, I can't tell which. Some of you corvid lovers might be able to tell the difference. But this is unavoidable. They have to change at some point in a lifetime. Maybe not this one, but sometime in the future, they will have no choice but to do so. Here is the Hierophant in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. It's also known as the Ancestor. I believe traditionally her name is known as the Ellen of the Ways. E-L-E-N, Ellen of the Ways. So, I think it's interesting that we have two deer-based entities bookending this particular Four of Cups right here. At all points, Ellen of the Ways is offering to guide people who are stuck in their energy vampire state to move out. It is a feminine character, so she's always waiting to hear these energy vampires say, okay, I see what I've been doing wrong. Enough is enough. I want to be better. And sometimes those people may say that they want to be better and they actually try for a while and they fall back on old habits. And they try again and they fall back on old habits. That is part of karma. That's part of the struggle that we see in the Eight of Swords. Because spiritual change is hard. It is not for the faint of heart. But she is faithful. Ellen of the Ways, the Ancestor, is faithful. And the ancestors of these particular energy vampires are also faithful. It's not just Ellen of the Ways. Someone may not believe towards the more druidic, Wiccan kind of way, okay? But the ancestors watch over this particular energy vampire over lifetimes and stay faithful even if they don't explicitly, actually help this person along the spiritual path. They say that this energy vampire must do their own work. And once they start to do their own work, then the ancestors will kick in and start to assist this particular energy vampire. But otherwise, they have to sit back and watch this particular person just kind of go through life on autopilot, unconsciously refusing to wake up until karmic justice says, enough is enough. You've been an energy vampire for long enough. You've refused to pay down your karmic debts for long enough. You have no choice but to change. Okay? We got Ten of Stones, home. The ancestor is always waiting to guide even the worst kind of energy vampire ultimately to home. In this lifetime or in another lifetime, this particular soul is not meant to stay lost a black hole of energy forever. It's meant to be a lesson, albeit a very long, centuries-long, lifetimes-long lesson. It's meant to be a lesson that leads this soul to their best and their highest good. That doesn't negate the damage that they do to the people around them or to themselves. But this is ultimately a lesson that they are meant to learn to relieve that karmic debt and become the divine individual that they were meant to become. As hard as that may be for some of you to imagine who are listening to this, okay? You may have an energy vampire in your life who you have no choice but to deal with. And you cannot ever imagine this person being on a divine spiritual path, righting the wrongs that they've done in previous lifetimes. You can see how that may not be the case in this particular lifetime, but who's to say that that will not be the case in another lifetime? And you may not see that. I hope that you can go into a kind of therapy, a kind of healing for you as you are forced to deal with this particular individual, or if you've been able to get away from them. I hope that you're allowed to heal from the wounds that they dealt you. They're probably deep enough that you're never going to be able to transform them, completely heal them in the sense that you're going to have scars left over, but that's what justice is there for. It's to right wrongs. It would have been better if those wrongs had never been done to begin with. But the next best thing is justice saying, let's make things right after things have gone so wrong. Okay? I've got a couple of questions here, and I want to move along to the next one. What is often going on inside an energy vampire's spiritual life? So this is interesting. Sufi Wisdom wants to handle this particular question. I thought that was interesting. Okay, once again, we shuffle until Spirit asks me to stop, and obviously no reversals needed with, well, I don't know that any Oracle card needs reversals, but it's up to the practitioner, right? Interesting. What's going on inside an energy vampire spiritual life? We had talked about them being bored with that Four of Cups stagnancy energy, that stagnant energy. This is take time to play. Make time to dance and play. These are people who definitely aren't attached to their inner child in any way, even if they act out in very childish ways. Their inner adult and their inner child aren't connected to each other in a divine light kind of way. And I didn't know this about inner child, inner adult, and all that kind of stuff. That's a science, a psychological science that's been around since the late 1800s. So there's something to that. But something about this inner adult and this inner child are not connected. And this particular individual, even when they may act in a childish way, they are not connected to their inner child. And so they end up acting in kinds of ways that do damage to a lot of people. You've got live in the moment. What you are looking for is within you. So this is about, with an energy vampire, this would be about them not being on a spiritual path at all, actively avoiding it. And when they actively avoid the spiritual path, in spite of the trials that a spiritual path would often give an energy vampire, they can't enjoy life. Truly, they can't enjoy life when they aren't evolving themselves, okay? One more. Fine wine. Longing is the portal to wholeness. Again, we come back to that Four of Cups, that stagnant energy. When they have everything that they want from the empaths, the energy supplies around them, they are bored. They don't have a reason to want. There's most likely something within them that says, I want something more, but they will deny it at every point. But then they'll do everything that they can to fill that spiritual hole, such as sex, such as substance abuse, such as workaholism. It'll be dependent for every energy vampire. But when they say, I'm good with everything, they'll fill their lives with money. That's another thing that I forgot. They'll fill their lives with money, but they're missing out on something huge when they do not take on a spiritual path, when they do not connect their inner child and their inner adult to their divine higher self. And I understand that may be difficult for you to think of this particular energy vampire as someone who has a divine higher self. They do, they're just not tapping into it. They're actively avoiding it. Okay? What you're looking for is within you. So stop looking to the energy vampire. Stop looking to outside external sources for happiness, for true love, for money, for satisfaction. Stop looking for those kinds of riches, because all the riches that you have that you need are within you. You just have to do the hard work of recognizing that. So, that's another question. I've got another one. What in life often creates an energy vampire? So we're going to tap back into the Wildwood Tarot with this particular question. What often creates an energy vampire? Something just flipped out. Again, Four of Vessels, boredom. The Journey flipped out once again. This is their choosing not to take on a spiritual path. They avoid it at all costs. They fill that hole in their heart with everything that should make other people, they fill that hole in their heart with the things that the world tells them will make them happy, but all they find out is that they want more, because they're not chasing after what really, really matters, what is permanent, what we can keep over lifetimes. That's our divine self. We've got the Queen of Bows, the Hare. moving quickly towards, well, you know what I remember about rabbits is that they will pull out the fur on their chests to make a nest for their babies, for instance. So this is about nourishing. A lot of these people lacked nourishment at a young age, and that creates an energy vampire. Now, I understand that we weren't going to talk about mental illnesses or anything like that with this particular video, and I still want to stay somewhat away from that. But what I got in my mind was narcissistic personality disorder. And not the narcissistic in the sense that people throw around this word all the time on the internet, and it's not exactly deserved, okay? NPD is notoriously difficult to actually officially diagnose, okay? So that's what I'm talking about. But these are parents who fail to take care of their kid in some particular fashion, fail to acknowledge what their kid is going through, who have failed to really connect and attach to their kid in a nourishing, nurturing kind of way, in a way that builds their self-esteem, builds their sense of self. Often the parents are avoiding their own spiritual path and are often filling the holes in their hearts, there's the spiritual hole in their hearts, with things that the world says should make them happy. So in many ways, the kid follows suit and grows up into be an adult who's just like their parents. The acorn does not fall far from the tree. So literally, nobody chooses to transform in their family, and so a kind of family lineage of energy vampires is created. This is interesting. I'm getting the picture of Jaclyn Hill and her mom together. Take that with a grain of salt, okay? It's been a while since I read for Jaclyn Hill, but her face and her mom's face popped into my head just now. These people suck to be around, no pun intended, okay? And if you can avoid them, more power to you. If you cannot avoid them, what can we do to handle that part, okay? And that's actually my next question. What's the best way to handle an energy vampire if it is not possible to fully get them out of your life? So let's deal once again with the Wildwood Tarot. This is the Judgment card, the Great Bear. So you've got I don't remember, it's the Little Dipper or the Big Dipper in the background. And again, I'm sorry for the shitty camera. But you've got the Little Dipper or Big Dipper constellation in the background. You've got oh God, what are those lights in the sky? Aurora Borealis. You've got the Aurora Borealis. You've got these trees framing this particular tomb. And the polar bear is also indicating that you need to enter this tomb in order to become your best and your highest self. Basically, in a sense, become a living sacrifice. Do some hard work to evolve yourself so that you are not attracted to energy vampires, because unfortunately a lot of people feel a great connection, a great pull to energy vampires, and it's not because they are a twin flame or a future best friend. Often it's a trauma bond in some particular way. And to be fair, a lot of these people can be quite charming and charismatic and do have a kind of pull to them that a lot of people, if they're not spiritually aware, if they haven't gone through spiritual transformations, they mistake that charisma, that pull, for something that's not what it actually is, okay? Remember that these are black hole humans, or people who are energy black holes, for instance. They are not evolved, but you must become evolved. You must recognize yourself as a work of art who does not need to be anything but, who does not need to have money or certifications or degrees or networks or a particular kind of pretty face or a pretty body or anything like that. That you were born a work of art, flaws and all. And if you can do the shadow work to recognize your flaws for what they really are and connect them to your divine self, then you recognize yourself fully as the work of art that you were born as at the beginning. So we're going to turn it over. Protect yourself. Think of yourself as this adorable little fawn underneath these dolmens. These particular rocks are called dolmens, and often I believe that sacrifices of some kind would be made on them. But consider rejection as protection, and consider your spiritual transformations as a kind of protection against these energy vampires. No one is saying that a spiritual transformation will be easy or painless for you, let alone for an energy vampire. But they are 100% worth it, so that eventually you won't be incarnated onto this earth anymore, because you will have learned all your karmic lessons, and so the same should be for these energy vampires that you may struggle with attracting to in your personal life. If it is impossible to get away from them, do what you can to protect yourself. Taking on a spiritual path will be of great assistance in you learning how to protect yourself and being able to dissolve your own ego, in the sense that you can recognize that this is someone who is stagnant, who is actively avoiding a spiritual path while struggling to stumble their way through life. You can recognize that. That's when you will have reached a spiritual, emotional, mental maturity that recognizes this person for what they are, and what they do won't be as painful. I'm not saying that it will be painless, but you'll understand where it comes from. And you'll also understand that the stag, the seer, and the moon on water all have things, and the journey as well, 4 things, that the journey as well have things in store for this energy vampire that you cannot get away from. And for some of you, it's a should not get away from. Because for a very few people watching this video, there may be some karmic debts that you need to relieve. And once you work through those debts, you'll be able to push away these energy vampires and get them out of your life more easily. But for the very rare few who should be around energy vampires, and I want to be cautious about saying that, it's meant to be, it's not meant to be, in the sense that it is possible that in a past lifetime, an incarnation of yours performed some kind of injustice, and part of justice, the stag taking action, was you becoming bound in a sense. A karmic partner, not a twin flame, but a karmic partner becoming bound to this particular energy vampire. As painful as that truth may be, and I want to emphasize that's for a very few rare people, and that's most likely not you. Okay? The Queen of Stones here with the bear. This is about fighting for yourself, protecting this fawn and not killing it, not eating it. Recognizing that this particular fawn is not prey. Recognizing that this is a fawn that should be fought for and protected, as opposed to being chased. And also, bears are formidable fighting opponents. If you ever watch a video of how fast a bear can run, if you ever look at how huge their jaws are when they open up wide, let's say a grizzly bear, for instance, or even a cute bear like a black bear, for instance, these are characters that you don't want to fuck with. When you take on a spiritual path and recognize yourself as a work of art that deserves to be protected, that's when you can act out on your own mama bear, so to speak. And you don't have to be a feminine person for your own mama bear to come out. Let's say daddy bear, okay? All gender identities are welcome here. Just keep in mind that once you recognize yourself for how valuable you truly are, the work of art that you truly are, that's when you're going to be able to push this energy vampire away, in a sense. Even if you have to deal with them, you're still able to work with them in one sense, but also become detached to anything that they may try to get you to do, anything they may try to get you to feel. You can let that go and continue to stay steady and strong within yourself. This doesn't have anything to do with any physical violence at all. This has everything to do with inner strength, with groundedness. Stones is about the earth. So it's very much about the groundedness that this particular energy vampire may be trying to pull you away from. Because if you're grounded, then you're not the energy supply for them that they want and feel like they need. It makes things more difficult for them. They don't get to be bored and stagnant and lazy anymore. You've got 11, the wood word, strength. So in one hand, the wood word is holding a spear and there is some blood on it. But in the other hand, he's got a cup. It signifies emotional maturity, not just physical strength. And I believe that's a lynx that's next to him. Not 100% sure. I don't know all my animals, okay? But the lynx sitting calmly next to him, in spite of the fact that he's a hunter, says to me that he is one who speaks to the animals very well, who has an inner kindness. You know, one of the things that I have observed is that if an individual is kind to the elderly, to small kids, to service workers, to small animals, for instance, or animals in general, then they're probably a pretty good person. Not flawless, but they're probably a good person who has learned to be gentle and use their gentle strength, whatever that may be, however that may manifest, okay? This is what you're being called to be, is to be the woodward. Someone who knows how to hunt the correct things, but at the same time knows how to be kind and gentle in the right circumstances. Now, for some of you, I just got the image of someone who suicide baits, who says, you need to keep an eye on me, I might do something to myself. This is a scenario where you need to call law enforcement. Say to this particular individual, I don't know why I'm being told to say this. This may be actually applicable to somebody. But consider telling this person, okay, I'm on my way. Let that be a lie, a white lie, so to speak. And then when they tell you where they are, give that particular location to law enforcement and don't show up. That's a kind of emotional, mental, spiritual intelligence. It's baiting, called suicide baiting, for a reason. It's how a lot of these energy vampires keep emotionally immature people in their orbit. And when you emotionally, spiritually, and mentally mature yourself, it's going to be a whole lot harder to be baited, whether it's suicide baiting or another kind of baiting entirely. It's going to be a whole lot harder for them to bait you into something. The woodward recognizes when something is false or not, and knows when to go after something else entirely, okay? He's got that steadiness, that maturity to recognize what is prey and what isn't. Remember that you deserve to be protected at all costs. You've got the 10 of vessels here, happiness. When you recognize yourself as the work of art that you are, when you protect the fawn within yourself, when you become the mama bear, the daddy bear, whatever may resonate with you, when you become the protective bear that knows to protect the fawn within yourself, when you advance down your spiritual path and become mentally, emotionally, spiritually mature, that is true happiness that cannot be touched. And the energy vampire may be deeply repulsed by that. They may do everything that they can to tear you down, because real recognizes real. That hole, that spiritual hole within themselves, recognizes the real within you and cannot stand it. For some energy vampires, definitely not all, that could be a sign of demonic-ishness energy, okay? Take that as it resonates with a grain of salt. That's not going to apply to everybody. But when you come to a place of deep peace and happiness, no matter what happens, no matter what's said, no matter what's done to you, that's untouchable. You have finished your shadow work in a sense. That's it. Now you can teach other people how to follow their own spiritual path. You might see this particular energy vampire being repulsed and sent away from you because you're that untouchable. So the answer to having an energy vampire in your life who it's impossible or next to impossible to get rid of is you need to handle your own spiritual self. Protect yourself, recognize yourself as a work of art that must be protected. This isn't going to happen overnight, but it is a journey worth taking on if you're willing to do it, okay? One more question. What could we learn from the life of a stereotypical energy vampire? So, no more shuffling. Interesting. Spirit says to just take from the top. Time to play. Okay. What could we learn? Take time to play. Relax. Have fun. It's interesting. I guess we all need to do that, whether we're energy vampires or not. Live in the moment. What you're looking for is within you. And looking for something better and different for people who vibe with you on a very deep, fundamental, molecular level is going to be the key to true happiness, to that 10 of vessels, that 10 of cups. It's interesting. It's like we all need to relax. And I understand that, sorry, I banged the table. We all need to make time for ourselves to really enjoy life. And I understand that we live in a world that it feels like is rapidly spinning out of control, especially if you live in the United States. Keep in mind that is partly Pluto in Aquarius getting to real work right now, but also remember that we're in a very fiery year in the sense that it's not just Pluto in Aquarius, it's Neptune and Aries, which we're going to have coming in at the end of March. We've got Saturn and Aries kicking off in May, right around the time of my birthday. And then we've got Uranus and Gemini. We've got a lot of fiery, airy energy kicking up this year, and that's going to make it feel like things are ungrounded and unstable and lack compassion at the same time too, lack love and compassion. This is the time to give yourself that love and compassion that you deserve. It has to come from within. It cannot come from external sources, dude. Even when you're going through your dark night of the soul, you may have Pluto opposing or squaring off with something in your natal birth charts. Something that Pluto may be doing is doing difficult things for you and is giving you that dark night of the soul. Even then, it is possible to have a kind of inner peace which says, I know I'm doing the right thing. I am following my sacred intuition. I am following my inner light, and I'm not hiding it. It's there. It is open for people to see, and it will repulse some people, and it will attract the right people, I would hope, for you. And for some people, for some energy vampires, they make it close and then realize, oh, that's not something I want to fuck with because you're too pure for them. Especially when you're a strong, pure person. A lot of energy vampires get repulsed just within a few words. Okay, and ultimately, that's what we're going for here. No more from me. I hope that what I said was clear enough for you. We are Mercury. Oh, yeah, that's the other fire sign. We're in Mercury retrograde in Aries, and Venus is in retrograde too. So, two relationship-based transits that can be really fiery and can bring up a lot of fights. So this might be the perfect time to pay attention to how you respond to other people, especially in relationships that are close to you, that, let's say, romantic partnerships, maybe you're co-parenting with somebody, for instance. This is the time to pay close attention to how it is that you feel around this energy vampire. And if they get you too kicked up out of control, it's time to ground. Some meditative practices will be wonderful for you. I love using Insight Timer, and I love using Insight Timer in combination with Meditative Mind, the YouTube channel Meditative Mind, for instance. Wonderful combination for me personally, but you need to find what's good for you. There are all kinds of videos on YouTube that are 100% free, not behind any paywalls or anything like that, not members only, that teach you how to be a beginner meditator and break it down in some really cool ways that makes it accessible for everyone, okay? And I strongly encourage you to look those up, dude. Even I look back at those videos for a quick refresher every once in a while. But a meditative practice and you reaching towards the ultimate destruction of your ego, the disidentifying with the collective ego, for instance, is what's going to bring you to your 10 of Vessels true happiness that cannot be touched by what's said to you, by what's done to you. It cannot be touched, okay? Now, one more note is that if you're co-parenting, definitely tap into your Queen of Stones. It's not just about you protecting yourself. It's about you protecting your kids and recognizing that some things should not be let go of. Some things deserve to be recorded, paid attention to, and then a lawyer needs to be contacted, okay? That's beyond the scope of anything psychic, spiritual that I or anyone else may have to say, okay? This reading is not a replacement for medical advice, therapeutic, law enforcement, or legal advice whatsoever, okay? So I'm hoping that on the one hand it was helpful on a spiritual level, but on the other hand, past this, you need to get in contact with professionals, okay? Thank you for watching to this point, if you did. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I wish you blessings on your spiritual path. Take care.